The Grand Council station floated in the silent brilliance of a dying star. Its vast rings shimmered with refracted light, a mosaic of alien craftsmanship, crystalline panels grown by Vrixian engineers, organic walkways pulsing with faint bioluminescence from Lahari vines, and towering structures sculpted from Solari plasma metal. It was said that within these walls, war itself was forced to hold its breath. Captain Mara Ellison stepped off the shuttle with a posture that said she didn't care who was watching, but she was aware of everyone. Behind her, Ambassador Iliadros adjusted his collar and offered a calm smile to the welcoming committee. The human delegation numbered only 6, yet the echo of their synchronized footsteps drew every gaze in the arrival hall. The silence was immediate. Dozens of species stood frozen, their pupils contracting, feathers and scales bristling as the humans advanced. There was no aggression in their movement, just too much precision, too much stillness. Predators had walked into a room full of prey, and instinct remembered. Mara's eyes swept across the chamber. 4 security exits, 2 vantage points, no obvious snipers. A habit from her marine days she could never shake. She caught the stare of a Dravari guard, a massive reptilian creature covered in obsidian scales, and gave a polite nod. The guard's crest flattened. "Smile, Mara," Dross whispered through their earpieces. "You look like you're casing the place." "I am," she murmured. "Old habits. Try to look harmless. That's your department." The reception line broke into awkward motion. A tall, translucent being from the Solari Collective extended a limb. "We greet humanity," it said through the translator drone. Its voice vibrated like glass struck by wind. "Ambassador Dross, United Earth Diplomatic Corps," Ilya said warmly. "Captain Ellison, Security Detail Lead. It's an honor to finally stand among the stars as partners in peace." The translator projected his words perfectly, but tone did not translate. To the aliens, the calm baritone carried an edge of command. The crowd rippled uneasily. From the far end of the hall, a heavy thump echoed. The Dravari delegation arrived, armored, scaled, eyes like molten copper. At their head was Vorotan, Dominion representative and conqueror of 17 worlds. His presence radiated confidence and contempt in equal measure. "So these are the humans," Vorotan said, his translator buzzing in irritation as it tried to match his guttural growl. "Smaller than I expected. But perhaps denser." His gaze lingered on Mara, assessing. "Good to meet you, Representative," she replied evenly. "I hope peace weighs heavier than war today." Laughter rumbled from the Dravari's chest, a sound too low to be friendly. "Peace is forged by the strong. The weak only sign the papers." Mara didn't blink. "Then it's fortunate humanity learned to forge under pressure." For a heartbeat, the entire hall froze. The Dravari's guards tensed, their claws flexing. Mara didn't move. The first to look away was Vorotan. His crest dipped slightly, almost imperceptibly. Ambassador Dross cleared his throat, breaking the spell. "Perhaps we should proceed to the council chamber before we accidentally start a war." The hall exhaled. The Grand Council chamber was an amphitheater of light and glass. Delegates occupied layered terraces that encircled a central dais where the mediators sat. Every race had brought its finest: diplomats draped in silk, Neuralink scribes, and living translators. Humanity's section was modest: a single table, a small flag, and 6 chairs. Dross took his place beside Mara. "Remember," he whispered, "we're observers. No provocations, no human idioms, no threats, promises, or jokes," she finished. "Got it." As the meeting began, Mara let her gaze roam. The smell of ozone and strange pollens mixed in the air. Hollow displays floated above the dais, showing territorial maps of disputed systems. Voices overlapped, musical, clicking, hissing, rumbling, until the universal translator rendered them intelligible. The Solari mediator raised its glowing appendages. "The purpose of this summit is the cessation of hostilities between the Dravari Dominion and the Solari Collective. Neutral observers, such as the newly arrived humans, will assist in record and oversight." Murmurs rippled through the chamber at the word human. Vorotan leaned back, his armor gleaming under the lights. Neutral? You bring Deathworlders as mediators of peace? Mara kept her face blank, though her pulse quickened. Dross responded smoothly. Humanity understands conflict better than most. We've learned the cost. Or perfected it. Vorotan sneered. I have read your history. Entire continents burned. You exterminated your own kind for resources. What lesson do you bring to peace, predators? Whispers surged through the audience. Dozens of eyes turned toward the humans. Mara's hand twitched, instinct, not aggression, but it was enough. Across the room, a dozen alien guards gripped their weapons tighter. Ambassador, she said quietly, let me handle this. Dross hesitated. Careful. She rose. Representative Vorotan, she said, voice steady. You're correct. We did all those things. And we survived them. That's why we understand peace isn't words, it's endurance. It's restraint. The translator carried her tone too faithfully. The chamber went silent. Some mistook her calm for warning. She continued, We're not here to teach anyone. We're here to learn. But don't mistake control for fear. Her gaze locked on Vorotan again. The Dravari shifted, the faintest hiss escaping his throat. He didn't speak. The silence stretched long enough for even the translation drones to hesitate. Then the Solari mediator shimmered. The record notes the human statement. Proceeding to Agenda Point 1. The moment passed, but something fundamental had changed. The Dravari looked away first, and that, unintentionally, cemented humanity's image as something no one wished to provoke. Hours passed. Delegates debated mineral rights, border patrols, and treaty clauses. Humans listened, spoke little, and drew constant attention simply by existing. Every casual movement, stretching a shoulder, adjusting a cuff, was watched as if a weapon might appear. When refreshments were served, Ambassador Dross politely declined, citing biology. The council took it as an insult. They refused nourishment? A Vrixian whispered. A sign of dominance. Mara rubbed her temple. We should have brought sandwiches. By the end of the session, tension hung like static. As the delegates dispersed, Dross leaned close. You were composed. Maybe too composed. They're terrified. Better that than underestimating us, she said. He frowned. We're supposed to make them trust us, not freeze them solid. Mara's eyes followed the departing Dravari. Trust comes after understanding. Fear's just the first step. A Solari aide approached, its form shifting like mist. Captain Ellison, it said in delicate tones. The Council requests that humans limit motion during sessions. Your coordination unsettles the others. Mara almost laughed but caught herself. Understood. We'll try to move less like humans. The aide hesitated, uncertain if it had been insulted, then floated away. Dross sighed. Tomorrow, we try again. Maybe fewer stairs this time. No promises. As they returned to their quarters, the station's corridors hummed with alien whispers. They smile when threatened. Their eyes don't blink enough. They carry no weapons, perhaps their bodies are weapons. The council chamber was quieter the next morning, but the silence was brittle. It carried the tension of beings who had spent the night replaying every movement, every human glance, every pause. The humans had done nothing wrong, and that, somehow, was what terrified everyone most. Captain Mara Ellison stood by the observation window, staring at the slow spin of the station. Beyond the glass, the dying star flickered in crimson arcs, bathing the metal hulls of distant ships in bloodlight. She'd slept little. Too many years of combat had trained her body to rest lightly, and this place, the pulse of machinery, the scent of alien metals, kept her mind alert. Ambassador Dross entered, coffee bulb in hand. The council wants to meet early. The Dravari are pushing for emergency clauses before the formal peace vote. Mara turned. That means they're planning something. Probably. Dross sighed. Their fleets moved closer to the neutral zone overnight. The Solari think it's intimidation. It is, she said flatly. He studied her expression. You always expect the worst. I planned for it, she corrected. The grand hall's atmosphere had changed. Delegates avoided eye contact with the humans. Conversation ceased when they passed. Even the cleaning drones seemed to steer wider paths. Humanity had entered the galaxy's collective imagination as the story every species told their offspring about the darkness between stars, real, polite, and patient. When the humans took their seats, Vorotan was already on the dais. His armor gleamed like polished obsidian, his claws tapping against the podium. Before we continue, he began, the Dravari Dominion requests clarification. We must know what armaments these humans carry. For safety. Whispers filled the terraces. Ambassador Dross rose, voice measured. None. Our weapons are words, our intentions peaceful. Vorotan's lip curled. Words forged by conquerors. Mara felt the eyes of the room shift toward her. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Her silence carried weight, too much weight. The Solari mediator's tendrils shimmered uneasily. Let it be recorded that the humans have declared no hostile capability. The meeting resumed. Negotiations rolled through mineral exchanges and ceasefire logistics. The Dravari pressed for border privileges. The Solari countered with resource control clauses. Humanity remained quiet, absorbing everything. When Mara finally spoke, it wasn't planned. May I ask, she said, voice cutting through the overlapping tones, how many lives have been lost to this conflict? The mediator hesitated. 8.7 million confirmed. Many unrecorded. Mara nodded slowly. And the cause? A Solari representative replied. A disputed moon. Strategic orbit, rare elements. Her expression didn't change, but her tone carried weight. 8 million souls for rock in orbit. That's not strategy. That's habit. The translator's monotone failed to soften her words. The chamber went still again. Vorotan slammed a clawed hand on the table. Do not lecture us, human. You perfected slaughter long before we took to the stars. Mara met his glare. We also learned to stop. He leaned forward, voice low, dangerous. No species ever truly stops. It only hides its fangs until the moment is right. She didn't blink. Then maybe the difference is we remember what those fangs cost. The exchange rippled through the assembly like static. Some found her words unsettling, others uncomfortably true. Later, in the council's observation lounge, Dross leaned on the railing, watching the endless traffic of ships beyond the glass. You know, he said quietly, half the chamber now thinks you're capable of vaporizing this station with a glare. I'll take that as progress, she replied. He smiled faintly. We came to make allies, not urban legends. Fear's faster than friendship. At least fear listens. Before Dross could answer, a sudden vibration ran through the floor. The lights dimmed. Emergency glyphs flickered on the walls. Then a siren, low, steady, filled the air. What now? Dross muttered. A Solari guard darted in, voice trembling through its translator. Explosion detected in docking ring 6. Unregistered vessel destroyed. Mara's instincts sharpened. Casualties? Minimal. Blast isolated. But, the guard hesitated. Witnesses report seeing a human form fleeing the scene. Dross froze. That's impossible. Mara was already moving. Not impossible, planted. They reached the ring within minutes. Smoke still drifted through the corridor, carrying the scent of burnt alloy and ozone. Council security swarmed the area, scanning debris. A section of the wall had melted inward, a controlled detonation. A Vrixian officer pointed to a holographic projection, a grainy silhouette moving away from the blast, bipedal, tall. Vorotan stood beside the image, satisfaction curling his voice. Proof enough. Your species brings destruction wherever it lands. Mara stepped close to the hologram. That's not one of us. Convenient denial. She zoomed the feed, focusing on the figure's stride. Too heavy. Wrong gait pattern. No pressure signature from boots. That's not human, It's mimicking. Vorotan's nostrils flared. Lies. You seek to deceive the Council. Dross intervened. If Captain Ellison is correct, someone wants to frame us. Allow an investigation before you condemn an ally of peace. The mediator hesitated, but Vorotan pressed harder. The humans should be detained until truth is confirmed. Mara turned to the assembly gathering near the scene. Her voice remained calm, but every word carried conviction. If humanity wanted to destroy this station, there wouldn't be enough left to argue over. The statement landed like thunder. Even the sirens seemed quieter afterward. Vorotan glared but said nothing. Hours later, in a secured chamber, Mara reviewed sensor data with 2 Solari technicians. The recordings didn't match Dravari physiology either. Whatever the figure was, it blurred between readings, shifting signatures mid-frame. Artificial. Drone disguise tech? One technician suggested. Possibly, she said, but that level of mimicry requires Dominion resources. The Solari exchanged looks. You imply sabotage. I imply someone wants a war they can control, Mara replied. Meanwhile, Vorotan met privately with several delegates in a dim side hall. You saw her response, he hissed. Calm as vacuum. She knows the explosion's purpose because she arranged it. A reptilian ally asked. But why risk such a thing? Because humans thrive in chaos, Vorotan said. They create it to justify their presence. We must act before their fleet arrives. His aides nodded, the lie already spreading. In the human quarters, Dross paced. They're turning the Council against us. If this continues, we'll be isolated before day's end. Mara reviewed a tactical map on her wrist display. Then we show them the truth before that happens. How? Half the station believes the Dravari. By finding the evidence faster than they spread fear. He frowned. And if we can't? She looked up, eyes steady. Then they'll see what restraint looks like under fire. The communicator chimed, an urgent transmission from the Solari fleet orbiting the station. Mara answered. Go ahead. A distorted voice came through the static. Unidentified warships entering neutral space. Dravari codes. Weapons charged. Dross paled. They wouldn't dare. They would, she said. Because they think fear will make us blink first. Outside, the crimson light of the dying star deepened as shadows lengthened across the station's hull. The grand hall of Concordium Prime was quieter than it had ever been. The air, usually thick with the voices of hundreds of species, now hung heavy, watchful, uncertain. Every alien eye was fixed on the humans. The delegates of Earth stood in the center of the chamber, their posture unnervingly calm, their faces unreadable. General Soren watched them from his elevated podium. His tendrils coiled with restrained tension. Your species arrives at a peace summit in war armor, he said through the translator sphere. That is a curious gesture. Admiral Evelyn Cade stepped forward. Her uniform was black, adorned with no insignia of rank, only a small silver pin, Earth Command. Her voice, calm but carrying across the hall, held a gravity that silenced whispers. General Soren, she began. We come armored not in hostility, but in memory. The hall shifted. Delegates exchanged glances, antennae flicking, feathers ruffling. The Virex envoy hissed. Memory? You threaten us under the guise of memory? Evelyn shook her head. No. But peace requires understanding, and the galaxy's record of peace tends to involve one side kneeling. A pulse of tension rippled through the room. The Zilith Chancellor's eyes, faceted and cold, narrowed. And you believe humanity will not kneel? Cade turned her gaze on the Chancellor. We don't kneel. We remember, rebuild, and come back standing taller. That single line echoed. The translator lagged behind, but the meaning hit before the sound did. The chamber felt smaller. At the back of the human delegation, Dr. Juno Malik, the xenopsychologist who had insisted they attend, watched the alien reactions carefully. Fear, he realized, not of threat, but of unpredictability. The humans didn't posture. They didn't roar, brandish weapons, or demand. They stood there, steady, like creatures who'd looked extinction in the eye and found it unimpressive. Evelyn placed a data crystal on the table. It projected images into the air, ruins of Earth's cities, orbital bombardments, the brief flashes of humanity's own civil wars. Then, a flicker, Mars rebuilt, the Dyson array igniting, the first interstellar ship leaving Sol. This, she said, is who we are. We destroy, yes, but we learn faster than anyone. We have burned ourselves before. We don't fear war because we already know its cost. The projection shifted again. Humanity's response teams helping after alien disasters, fleets delivering medical relief across the neutral zones, terraforming vessels sent to restore poisoned worlds. Evelyn turned to the council. We didn't come here to threaten. We came here because every time someone else said peace, they meant submission. We mean cooperation. A low hum filled the chamber, translation devices catching up to the emotional tone. General Soren leaned forward, mandibles flexing. And if the galaxy refuses your cooperation? Evelyn didn't blink. Then we will leave you alone. But history shows we don't stay alone forever. The weight of that statement wasn't lost on anyone. Humanity had risen from post-apocalyptic ashes to star travel in less than 2 centuries. The speed terrified everyone. Juno noticed the delegates leaning back, their eyes darting, not at the humans, but at each other. Suspicion spread. They're realizing, he thought, that humans aren't the danger. Their own fear of us is. After the session recessed, Juno found Evelyn standing at the edge of the observation balcony. Concordium Prime stretched below them, a city of glass veins and floating light. You handled that well, he said. She gave a faint smile. You mean I didn't start a galactic war? I mean, Juno replied, leaning beside her. You reminded them of something they'd forgotten, what real survival looks like. She didn't respond for a moment. They've lived too long without predators. It changes how you think. How you talk about peace. Juno glanced at her. And us? Evelyn looked out at the stars. We're what happens when predators learn empathy. Meanwhile, in the council's private chambers, the alien leaders argued in hushed, urgent tones. They'll destabilize everything, hissed the Virex envoy. They thrive on conflict. No, countered the Air diplomat, her scales flashing blue. They thrive on meaning. You saw their eyes, discipline, not rage. General Soren watched silently, his claw tapping against the table. They are dangerous, he finally said. But not because they seek war. They are dangerous because they are unafraid of it. The Chancellor leaned forward. Then we must decide, contain them, or align with them? Soren's gaze darkened. Containment failed with their ancestors. Alignment may be our only path forward. Back in the human quarters, the delegation prepared to depart. The tension of the summit still clung to the air. Captain Rees, one of Evelyn's officers, muttered, Feels like we scared them half to death. Juno adjusted his datapad. We didn't scare them. We reminded them they can be scared. Evelyn looked up from her console. And that fear isn't always weakness, it's recognition. She turned to the viewport, where the human ship Dauntless floated against the void. Next time they'll meet us not as curiosities, but as equals, or as something they'll need to understand quickly. Her tone carried neither arrogance nor threat, just certainty. Later, as the humans departed, the Concordium Council reconvened to vote on humanity's admittance. The result was unprecedented, unanimous acceptance. Yet none could shake the unease. In their absence, the Chancellor whispered to Soren, Do you think they know what they've done? Soren's mandibles clicked softly. Oh, they know. They just didn't need to say it. The chamber dimmed as the human ship warped away, leaving only silence, and a new awareness that the balance of the galaxy had just shifted. On board the Dauntless, Evelyn stood at the bridge window, watching the stars streak by. Status? She asked. All systems nominal, Breeze replied. Council's response received, they've accepted us. Juno let out a low whistle. So, humanity's officially part of the galactic community. Evelyn folded her arms, eyes on the void. No. The galaxy's officially part of our future. A hush followed, half awe, half fear of what that truly meant. As Earth faded into the background of galactic politics, one truth became undeniable across the stars. The humans hadn't come to conquer. They'd simply shown up. And reminded everyone what it meant to stand tall in the face of the unknown.